My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And we are the co-hosts of Savannah's hit podcast, The Most Haunted City on Earth.
Over the past year, we've created content that has reached millions.
Showcasing Savannah for what it is, a hauntingly beautiful city built upon its dead.
And now we're partnering with Visit Savannah to bring you the Haunted City series, where Madison and I go beyond our microphones to visit some of Savannah's most phantasmal locations.
Spinning Savannah's most eerie stories and deep diving into the cultures, the people, and the businesses that make this city so unique.
So, with an open door to all,
the Hostess City way, welcome to the most haunted city on Earth.
Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya. Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya. Oh Lord, Kumbaya. Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Oh Lord, come by ya, my Lord, come by ya, my Lord, come by ya, my Lord, come by ya. Oh Lord, come by ya.
Hello and welcome to the most haunted city on Earth in collaboration with Visit Savannah. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And today we are at the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Center. And we are here today with Dr. Maxine Bryant. Dr. Maxine, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit further?
Well, hello there. I'm so excited to be a part of your podcast today. I'm Dr. Maxine Bryant. I am the director of the Georgia Southern Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Center right here in beautiful Savannah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming out here today. Well, we came to you, but you know. Now, we have so many questions to ask you. Considering you are a doctor, you're an expert in your field, so we want to get all of the nitty-gritty on the history of the Gullah Geechee and also all of the spiritual aspects that we have come to love here in Savannah.
Okay, so let me first say that I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, right? So I'm a long way from home. But when I came to Savannah and I became acquainted with the culture here, I became so enthralled. I became so excited about learning about African American history, about the African diaspora, about the Gullah Geechee culture. So Madison, you mentioned earlier that there's a sense of spirituality that is very steeped within the Gullah Geechee culture. So I write for the Savannah Morning News also, and I focus on Gullah Geechee culture, Black culture, and I just received a letter from a man out in the west coast of the United States, and he identified as a white man, and he chastised me for calling Gullah Geechee people indigenous to this area. He said they came from Africa. They're not indigenous to the coastal Georgia area. So I had to educate him, right? So you're right. Gullah Geechee people are the descendants of Africans who were captured in West Africa, primarily Sierra Leone, Liberia, Ghana, those areas that were really well known for their rice culture growing skills, right? Rice growing skills. And they were brought to this region for that reason. Well, they were kept primarily on the Sea Islands. Sapelo, Defusky, St. Simons, Jekyll Island, all of those islands. That gave them the opportunity to create their own culture. Now keep in mind that it was very intentional by the slave captors to separate people based on their tribes, their village, the region that they came from, to separate them, to reduce the likelihood of a revolt. And so that meant that the captured Africans who were on the islands often didn't speak the same language. So they had to come up with their own language. It's a blend of what they heard what is called the pale man speak. They picked up words here and there. They brought some of their words from Africa. They created new words. Thus, we have the Gullah Geechee language. They also created their own culture, largely based on that which came from Africa. So we have their music, foodways, waterways, spirituality, all of that combined together to create what we now call the Gullah Geechee culture, which is the oldest, get this now, it is the oldest and most directly related culture back to Africa, right? So the Creole in New Orleans can't claim that, right? We have it right here in Savannah, Georgia, so I'm excited about that.
I think oftentimes in the Gullah Geechee community, Sister Roz, people think that we're speaking a broken English.
Oh, no.
It is so important that they know that we're not. We consider ourselves bilingual.
Yes,
we
bilingual.
speak the Queen's English perfectly in the right environment.
Yes, yes.
But when we get around family and friends, we know how to loosen our tongue.
What you say now?
So when we come into a room and say, Grand Rising, I want to be.
Ooh, how you
that
be?
means, good morning, how are you?
That's right.
Whenever we say something that's out of order, we don't say anything. We just take a look-see at them and put our hands on our hip. That's all we do. We want people to know in terms of the language that Lorenzo Turner was the linguist that discovered this dialect from our ancestors being the turn of the century, 1900, that this is not a broken English. This is a language that's like a bowl of potpourri.
Yes.
You have a little Dutch, you have English, you have Creole, you have French, you have Portuguese. Anybody that enslaved us, we had to take on their language, put it in one pot, shake it up, and come up with our own language in order to communicate with all the tribes.
Ingenious.
So when you say Angola, that's the Gullah people. When you say Geechee, that's the Geechee people from that tribe. But you're talking about all of us coming together with all of our tongues to come up with a language that we can understand. And no, it is absolutely not broken English.
No, it's not.
The doctor's going to give me a new knee on Tuesday, but I ain't tell him not no business keep me down. I coming right on here. So I am. Now look here now. We go into various churches on Sunday morning, and we come out. We look at one another. What we've gotten. So what modernistic? We say, how about that religion? And more like we say, oh honey, it's just so sweet. We don't say them like that. We say, how about that religion? How about that religion? How about that religion? How about that religion?
Why did you pick certain things to put into the Gullah Geechee Cultural Center?
As you mentioned, there's a strong thread, I think I will say that, of spirituality that connects people to the land, to the environment, to the water, everything. And so colors represent that connectivity. Paint blue, according to Gullah Geechee culture, keeps the evil spirits away. If you look at some of the porches, as you're driving through some of the neighborhoods in Savannah, you notice Haint blue on the porch. If you go into some of the homes, the ceilings are Haint blue. That's because there's a direct connection between heaven, what goes on there, and earth, the evil that's going on. And the blue heavens protect the people from the evilness in the world. So that's that connectivity.
One of the first cash crop that was explored was indigo. And out of indigo, once again, now you start talking about Haints, Hags, but in Africa, West Africa especially,
the blue itself, the color blue, was a powerful color that was used to ward off evil spirits. So naturally, when our ancestors that were enslaved to harvest the indigo, once the day was done or that task was completed, they would clean these vats, and naturally they would paint their doorways and their windowsills with this indigo blue, which some people dub it as Haint blue, and that was to protect that house from any type of evil spirits from entering.
Another thing I wanted to point out is behind you there is a blue bottle tree.
Yes.
So do you kind of want to give us an understanding of like what the blue bottle tree is, a little bit of the meaning behind it?
Yeah, definitely. So the bottle tree we have today is an artistic piece, but it's inspired by the real thing, which is simply glass bottles being strung up from trees or just laid out outside a home. And this was a protective method to protect people from Haints and Hags. Now, a hag was said to be a witch per se, who would summon up spirits or Haints that would peel off their skin, crawl into your home, sit on your chest to pin you down, and give you a nightmare. Now, today we connect this with sleep paralysis. All right, but to prevent this from happening, people would hang bottles from trees outside their homes or just lay them out outside their homes, and they believed the colors of the bottle would distract these spirits. Now, once upon a time, most glass bottles would eventually turn a bluish green, all right? Hence why the tradition today we have blue bottles. But as they would hang the bottles, it was believed that as these spirits came by, they would be distracted by the colors. And as the sun would rise the next day, its rays would shine down, dispersing them, and they would not return. But as today, it's still practice. And so we can actually follow this practice across the Atlantic to where you'd start to see enslaved people paint their ceilings a blue. And then as time goes on, they'd paint their door trim, window trim. And today in the Southeast, you can find whole porches painted this Haint blue to ward off evil spirits.
Slaves were targeted for their skills, for the fact that they knew what they were doing, that they had expertise. They weren't, savages in the jungle. They were peoples of a civilization. They had skills that were like rice growing. When you think of the American landscape, Savannah's a swampy marsh, and the kinds of things that you can grow here are limited. Rice being one of them, because you need marshland-like, environments. That's why the Sea Islands, were full of rice plantations. And they didn't bring people and teach them how to be rice growers. They went and got rice growers, experts in the field. So I think that became what we call folklore, is how people were explaining ancient knowledge without getting ancient knowledge.
Right.
They recognize there's something there. This person picked a plant, put it down, and I felt better. Magic. And it's like, well, it was knowledge. And that kind of tells you that knowledge is magic. Knowledge is a type of deep and powerful magic.
So you mentioned hags. I know a lot of people don't like to bring up hags because if you don't know, they're horrifying. But can you kind of give us an understanding of what hags are, where they kind of came from?
Well, once again, it's kind of on the dark side
Right.
of the spirituality part of it. When we were growing up, I could remember personally experiencing, and it's like your body goes into a paralysis. You're conscious, but you're conscious in your subconscious, I would say, because you could be reacting and nobody know what's going on with you other than yourself. And generally, it is described as a hag or witch riding you or weighting your back down, and you don't have any control of your body in the conscious state. Subconsciously, you hollering, screaming, and crying, but nobody can react to you. And I've heard tales that if one would recite a Bible verse or say a prayer, then this hag would leave you.
Right.
And that's what I did, and instantly it left me.
In all of our conversations, the hag does represent a very interesting answer, because people create monsters out of what they're afraid of. They create monsters because, and one of the hag's hallmarks is the hag can look like someone you love.
Well, and another thing with hags too that I've always made some form of a connection to is, you know, some people refer to, you know, people they don't like as hags, or like, that person's a hag, you know, because they suck the life out of you. And it could be, you know, have you ever met a person who you just
drains you?
It drains you of your energy. And I wonder if that couldn't also be, you know, just a way that people described, like, oh, stay away from that woman, you know, she's just a lot to deal with, you know.
Absolutely. That's a good point, Madison. That was a way to explain how certain people make us feel.
Oh, absolutely.
Drain. You know, there are some people, you're in the company of them after an hour, it's like, okay, I'm ready to go. I can't deal with you anymore, right? Then there are other people I can be with, you know, 24/7 just about.
Right.
And it's vibrant, it's energetic, it's good, there's a lot of synergy there. So imagine if I don't have the vocabulary to describe what I just said, and I'm using, you know, my knowledge or whatever, I come up with this monster kind of thing. This person drains me. This person, you know, gives me an evil feeling to be around them. So, yeah.
We see something wrong, and we're like, well, we gotta have an answer for what's wrong.
Yeah.
And so we come up with these things, and they're amazing because they enrich. They tell us about the culture, what they choose to be afraid of, and what they choose to believe in.
Right.
So, you know, that's kind of our bent, is to look at how these feelings about spirituality and spiritual damage manifest in these stories, these hags, these haints, these ideas of the invisible and unseen causing us damage.
Now, when it comes to the spirituality, I get a lot of people that ask me, do y'all like ghosts? And I keep trying to tell the people that Gullah Geechee people, we don't believe in ghosts. We believe in spirits.
We believe in the spirits.
Yeah. So if I were to have $1 million house and I moved into that house and I ran into some ghosts, they can have that house.
Ooh.
No such a thing.
No.
I'm not going to call for anybody to come. I'm leaving because we don't have time for ghosts. Now, spirits, we know that we entertain spirits because we feel like if we lose a loved one, as long as we say their names, they're always with us.
Yes.
And so we think their spirits are always around us, and we pull on the ancestral strength.
Yes,
so when
we
people
do.
say, what religion do you practice, Sister Pat? I say I believe in the Creator, but I also believe in my ancestors being with me. I believe that my ancestors will come and get me when it's time for me to go. And I think that a particular one, my favorite auntie, is going to come for me. That's what I believe. So we believe in spirits and energies because we can feel it all around us.
Yeah, it's a good feeling, like a hovering, a covering, as if God has designed appointed them to watch over them, chilling. And
you can feel it.
You can feel it. And even down to doing our tours, Sister Pat, that you brought that up, as we walk a certain area, I don't feel scared. It's it's a covering, it's a hovering, because
I can feel them.
I can feel them. So we've been assigned some great angels, and like I said, we don't believe in ghosts, we believe in the spirit. So God has assigned those ancestors to hover and cover and carry us.
I know Pat has mentioned on our podcast that Gullah Geechee people don't believe in ghosts, they believe in spirits. So are you in the same sentiment?
Exactly, and as I mentioned, our people or spiritual people, 90% of our people, I would say, or maybe less, we honor our ancestors. That was a big part in our spirituality. In times of need, in times of trouble, we pray to God, true, but we also call upon our ancestors to, lend us some of their credibility, some of the knowledge that they had. And their spirits are still here with us. The physical bodies are gone, but their spirit, they're still here with us. Going back to the Christianity, one of the big things was seeking to become a member of the church. It was like a rites of passage. And it was 30 days, 30 nights out in these woods. Now, some of the older guys and older women could tell you probably much more than I can. I came in on the last part of that. But what that symbolized is when one wanted to become a member of the church, you started like the first of the month. Now you have to go through this period. It's about 30 days, 30 nights. And the older generation literally had to be out in the woods like Christ was, symbolizing Christ out in the wilderness. Now, once you successfully go through that period, then now it's time for baptism. And traditionally, just like in West Africa, candidates were all dressed in white, young men and women, head wrapped up. And most of these creeks, there's a creek right over here that was used for baptism. And it was in the Gullah Geechee community, one had to be submerged underwater to be cleansed, actually. And generally, baptism were held on an incoming high tide. And once the tide had reached its peak, now it's beginning to ebb. So once the tide is going out, the preacher would submerge that individual underwater. And now what's that's representing is all of your sins being washed away to be carried out into the ocean.
Exactly.
So, you know.
So in order to be baptized, you had to go through the seeking process.
You had to go through the seeking process.
Got my letter. Oh, yeah. Got my letter. Oh, yeah. The people keep a-coming and the train done gone. Book of Revelation. Oh, yeah. Book of Revelation. Oh, yeah. Book of Revelation. Oh, yeah. The people keep a-coming and the train done gone.
Yeah. John wrote that.
The thing about Gullah Geechee people is that they realize that they did not come from savages, and they honor tradition, and they honor history, right? And the role that they played in the development of the world, not just the Gullah Geechee culture, but the world. Right? And so I wrote a paper a year or so ago that talked about Gullah influence across the diaspora, as far north as Canada, as far south as Mexico, Haiti, Jamaica, all of that, right? They've had some influence in the culture, but their cultures had some influence in multiple cultures across the world. So it's not relegated just to Savannah, Low Country.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
Well, and it makes sense, especially because not everybody stayed here in the Low Country.
Absolutely.
They're going to go out and share and spread their culture wherever they're going. And so...
you read my paper.
I'm going to.
Well, working with the museum itself have preserved some of the artifacts of our ancestors, how they worked during the day. Now, what we're doing in the community, we actually, there are a couple of organizations within the community who are collaborating together, you know, working on educational pieces, you know, trying to instill what we call Sankofa, you know, in the younger kids and older people who don't know, you know, so that they could reach back and gain their historical significance.
And y'all take care, because we never say goodbye. So Sister Pat and I, when we leave from each other's company,
See you soon.
take care now. Y'all take care now. That means I see my sister, I see my people soon.
Yes.
So we come to Savannah and you done visit and thing, we never say, oh, bye. That means
no such a thing.
no such a thing. Y'all chilling, y'all cheering, y'all take care now. Y'all
Yes.
take care now. See y'all again.
Yonder come girl.